fast you were going?
What? How fast you were going?
I don't know. 10? 8.
Be advised, this is an explicit podcast. If you're easily offended, get your panties twisted into a knot. Leave now. Run to your safe space. Get your little cloth for your tears. All the opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and his guest and do not reflect the opinions of any local or government agency. Welcome, Motor Cop Chronicles podcast. I'm your host, Iceman, and we're going to come back with you with part 2. We're going to introduce, well, I don't have to introduce them. I'm not going to bring them up yet. We got to do the housekeeping. So, y'all know we got Sergeant Jim W. from last Sunday. We're going to do part 2, more serious episode. I'm looking forward to it. Let's get the housekeeping out the way. You know, if you want a great cigar, you go to mypatriotcigar.com. Use promo code MotorCop15. Get 15% off your entire order. Go to $100 or more. I think you get free shipping. And there's some good cigars, people. If you really like a good cigar, go get you one. I think they also have a thing on there where you can, if you want to order one cigar or something like that, and it sends it to the troops that are deployed in active duty, you can do that also. So check that out. If you ever want any merchandise, Motorcop merchandise, you can either go to the Motorcop Chronicles Etsy store, or you can go to the website motorcopchronicles.com. Go down, all the links for everything are at the bottom. You can go to the store that way. If you really like listening to me and the other guys, you can join the Patreon, get the extra episodes. You can see the pictures, videos. I put a whole bunch of stuff up there. Text. I'm pretty active in the Patreon. There's a option you can try it out for 7 days for free, and then if you don't like it, just go about your business. Helps me keep my overhead down here also. I like sharing extra information I don't put out to the general public. Other than that, still gonna keep putting out the free stuff also, because I know times are tight also. I'm gonna shout out the full crew members like we do. We have Mr. John Demink. He's a full crew member. We got Dan Carlson with Burley Boards. They just opened their brick and mortar up. Y'all go check them out on website and stuff. They make great like cutting boards and all kind of other stuff. We got T-Bird. We got Mr. Jim Procrant from the Short Track Guys podcast. If y'all like racing, we got Mr. Hobby Hobson, truck driving friend. We got Mr. Blake Walker. We got A.A. Ron from I Had to Say It podcast. We got Z Palmer. We got Mr. Roy Spalding, Roy with the S. We seen a picture earlier. He dyed his hair blonde. Big blonde-headed dude now. We got JoJo, our favorite girl from Down Under. We have Kaylee Norris and Natasha Hale, 2 girls from the state of Washington. And, of course, the OG crew member, Melissa Holstein. Always happy to have y'all and appreciate y'all doing what y'all do. So, without any further ado, we're going to get the old sergeant on here, and we're gonna get a little serious tonight, folks. So, I hope y'all enjoy it. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Glad to be back.
We're glad to have you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, like I told you, and everybody else can hear it, I don't push or prod or nothing. So we're going to talk about more serious stuff, which is more personal stuff with this retired law enforcement professional's career and his personal business, some of it. So I don't push. Let him talk about what he wants to talk about and tell as much as he wants to talk about. But stuff that needs to be said, because in this line of work, we get a lot of stressors, emotional stressors and stuff like that, and we don't like to talk about it.
Yep, it is. Yeah, and so I'm just going to start off. I was a policeman in Michigan for 20 years. 13 of those years I worked in the inner city, and then the last 7, I worked for a tribal police agency in Southwest Michigan. and I was attached to the county on their TAC team. So I was an operator of the SWAT team while I was working there too. So, like 2000, I don't know. There was a lot of shit rolling around in my head right now, but I'm just going to start when I can remember when I started showing symptoms of post-traumatic stress. So 2016, I had shoulder surgery and I was off work, and, I was off work for probably 2 months, and my drinking picked up a lot during that time. And while I was off, they had a shooting at the courthouse in St. Joe, Michigan, and two guards or bailiffs were killed, and both of them were retired police. One was his name was Zangaro, and he was retired post commander from the state police, and the other guy's name was Ron Kinzel, and he was a retired township cop. And there was a prisoner that got a gun off one of the deputies. He shot Ron, he shot Zangaro, and killed him. And police responded. It was an active shooter situation, and suspect was killed pretty soon after that. But, I was on a TAC team, and the TAC team got deployed, activated, and I couldn't go, So I started drinking more because I felt guilty, So I went back to work, and the drinking continued. I was pretty bad off. I'd had a pretty tumultuous career. I've been laid off 3 times in my career,
which is crazy because me and him discussed this before. It's like down south and stuff where I've never heard of cops being laid off ever.
Yeah, never. I mean, it happened here in the 80s, I guess. Like state police had a layoff, but in 2005, the market crashed, and I was working in the Detroit area, and so I got pink slipped, and then I got recalled, and then I got pink slipped again in 2006, and now the police department that I worked for doesn't even exist anymore. It's got taken over by the Oakland County Sheriff's Department.
Wow.
And, that department at one time, Pontiac Police, that we were, 200 plus officers. So we were a pretty decent sized, city agency. And
was it because, like I said, I know like in Detroit stuff, they had the automobile crash and companies crash and all that other stuff. Was it because of that? Because of the industry of the automobile companies crash and stuff? So many cities almost just disappeared because they couldn't afford anything anymore?
Yeah, they just dry up, because, like in Pontiac, General Motors was there. Daimler Chrysler had their world headquarters in Auburn Hills, and we had 3 plants in Pontiac, and the housing market crashed, then the automotive industry crashed, and it was a bad time for Detroit. And I mean, DPD laid off 300 guys at the same time that I was pink slipped from Pontiac. So it used to be you could go, if you couldn't find a police job, you could always go to Detroit. Well, that wasn't the case then,
Mm-hmm.
So then I got pink slipped in 2006, and I was like, man, fuck this. I was looking out of state. But I had a buddy that worked for Benton Harbor City Police over on the west side of Michigan, right by Lake Michigan. And so he got me in an interview, and, I got in, and I worked there for about 6-7 years. Got pink slip from there, so at that point I'm like, God damn, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. So the tribe had a position, and the tribe was fiscally, sound. And so I went there, and, the pay was better. The benefits were good. But the problem with that department was there was a lot of guys that worked there that hadn't been real cops other places, and so that department was a little bit less hands-on than other agencies. So they didn't get a lot of the experience that guys would get from full-time agencies, traditional agencies. So, So I worked there, and the drinking got pretty bad. I was having all the symptoms, man. I was sweating. I was having nightmares. I had one night I went to work. I come into work and I dress out, and I'm just fucking sweating bullets, man. And I check my heart rate, and it's like 160. And my sergeant that I'm relieving, Rich, he was a paramedic, and he's like, man, you might be having a heart attack, bro. Let's get you to the ER. So I go to the ER. They hooked me up to the EKG. My heartbeat was irregular, so they fucking sent me to Kalamazoo, and I had to spend the weekend in the cardiac unit doing all these tests. So they did a heart cath, and, I had to do a stress test. And at the end of it, the doctor's like, your arteries and shit are clear, man. Like a 21-year-old guy. I was probably in my 40s at the time. And he said, have you talked to anybody like a mental health professional? And I'm like, why? He's like, because, some of this stuff could be psychological.
Sounds like you had a panic attack.
Yeah, it was a panic attack. And I would have them every time I went to work. Like every time I went to work and I put my uniform on, I would have a fucking wave of anxiety hit me. And it would take me hours, man, to come down from it. I would sit in the office, I'd do briefings, send my guys out, and I'd sit there and stare at the fucking computer for 2-3 hours before I could even bring myself to go out, on patrol. And, which was not like me, man. I was a fucking hard charger. I worked a lot of hard cases. There's people that are doing life in prison right now because of, cases that I put together. And so it was something that it was unfamiliar territory for me, and I didn't know what to do. And in this line of work, you can't fucking admit that you have a psychological problem or a mental health issue because you're done. They will fucking find a way to get rid of you.
Hey, once you get slapped with that rubber
that
stamp,
diagnosis.
I mean, you're basically if they don't just get rid of you, they'll transfer you around until you end up quitting because they got you, staring at a evidence locker or filing toothpicks or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And, one of my guys, I didn't know about this till after everything went down, comes down. I'll talk about here in a minute. But, one of my guys had gone to my chief, had a special meeting with him, met with him, met for lunch someplace. And he told him, he's like, I think Jim's got PTSD. So the chief's like, blah, 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 talking to him. And he tells him, he sits there, he sweats, he zones out. I'm worried about him. Well, this guy was a young cop, and, he didn't understand. He thought he was doing something good. And so I don't hold him.
He just fucked you.
He just fucked me, and he knew it, and he felt bad, and I knew his intentions were genuine, so I don't hold no, ill will against him. But the chief, he took that information and put it in his pocket, and I was a guy that he wanted to get rid of. He came in, I'd been at the department for 4 years when they brought him in as chief, and he came from one of the local sheriff's departments, and, I made enemies in my career, man. I was union president for 4 years, and I didn't fucking play nice with the administration like a lot of union reps used to do. So I made some enemies, and I don't know if that's why this guy had this grudge with me or what, but I can speculate.
Well, also you ever thought maybe I've noticed, not meaning to interrupt you, but one of the things when you're working for, just say, like I went from one department to another department. So when I came to a new department, I started at the bottom, which I knew I would have to. I'm not one of them guys that thinks, oh, well, I got experience, can start at the top. So,
right.
I mean, I started out, now I'm in a specialized division. I'm just a regular deputy, but I'm just a specialized division. But, I've gotten, now I'm 27 and a half years in now.
Right.
And, when I came in, I had 23 and a half. So I was working with people, the guy that had me, my FTO was 2 days when I came to the department because I was already a cop, but
Right.
I mean, the guy that was FTO. I mean, he only had like 8 years in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm the type of, when I go on calls as a backup, I'm backup. Even if
Right.
I mean, because I was a supervisor before too, so I'm, I got to remind myself, just stay back. Let's not let them handle their call their way.
Right.
Maybe he was intimidated because maybe you knew more than him.
Yeah, and I think that plays a part. And I'd said that to a couple bosses because it pissed me off. But I tried to be good with this guy. I tried to do it differently, and it just was, it was all in vain, I guess. But so he came in, and he's running around like a fucking Korean general with all his medals and shit on his uniform, and the only pin I wore on my uniform was my name tag and a slot pin. That was it. So,
Kind of like me, I got my name tag, my badge, and if I'm in regular uniform, not my other one, my motor wings.
Yep.
That's it.
That's all you need.
Collar brass.
Collar brass. I wore collar brass too. So, things changed. They promoted. I tried to become. I was a sergeant when he came in. He got in his position, ran a process for lieutenant. I tested at the top of the list, and I didn't get hired, or I didn't get promoted. The other guy got promoted that tested at the bottom of the list. So, but he was in there blowing smoke up the chief's ass and stroking his ego. So I was a night shifter. I wasn't around the administration, so I wasn't seen, or not that I would have done anything differently if I had been on days, but I work nights, so I could.
They don't. Yeah, for the night shift guys, you don't get heard on the radio by administration or nothing like that because they're at home off at that time.
Yep. So, the drinking got pretty bad. Having him as a boss, he became a pretty toxic boss. He was he hated fucking male cops. I didn't understand that. He had an affinity for female cops, and he would make sure that they got put in positions, got opportunities before the males did. And I remember we hired this female, and she was new, and she got assigned to one of our satellite offices, and we had locker rooms and shit there. Well, she didn't have a locker. And so that came down on me somehow. So I'm like, he goes, why doesn't she have a locker? Because I was in charge of the field training program. I said, I don't fucking know why she doesn't have a locker. I'm not the lieutenant in charge of that shit. Why don't you go talk to him? And so we had a command staff meeting, and he goes, I'll tell you what, this is bullshit. If another female officer is assigned and doesn't have a locker, then that one of the male officers is going to be giving up his locker. And I said, that ain't going to fucking happen.
Yeah, how is that fair? Just because she's a girl?
Yeah, just because she's a girl, that's fucking. So you're basically saying that you're going to discriminate based on gender, who gets a locker or not, So he showed his colors, man. Every time he would posture, I saw right through him like a fucking pane of glass.
He's probably trying to get in all of his pants. What makes me think.
Yeah, you're probably right. And who knows? He was pretty slippery, man. He was a slippery dude. And in my experience, it was always guys. I was a love-hate guy. People either loved me or they fucking hated me. And
I'm still.
I found that. Yeah, exactly. So, and I found the guys that hated me, or the people that hated me, they were a bad moral character typically anyway. So I didn't give a fuck if they didn't like me or not, and I kind of lumped him into this category. But, it played on my fucking my psychological shit because, I'm in my 40s now. I've, bounced from 3 departments, not because of any fault of my own, but, I tried to stick it out, man. I tried to stick it out. He was going to be there for 5-6 years. I was going to ride that shit out and then stay on nights until he left. So that's what I did, and I was an active shooter instructor. So I had a lot of tactical training through SWAT. I became, an instructor for active shooter response for patrol. active shooter response for schools and businesses. And I was also an instructor for Rescue Task Force, which is like if you have a fluid incident that's happening right now and you've got casualties that we got to get to, then Rescue Task Forces, you stage all your fucking shit, your fire, your EMS, your police, you have a command post, and you're going to send guys into the fucking, hot zone to get these fucking victims, and so we can get them out. But you're also sending guys in, police guys in, SWAT guys in, or whatever, with, ready to deal with a fucking deadly force situation. So, I had all this training, and, I was trying to help the department, grow and shit like that. And, so we'll fast forward to 2019. So 2019, my dad had died in 2018. It was almost a year to the day that my dad passed away that this shit all went down. So, the week leading up to March 8th of 2019, I was in another active shooter instructor school through FLETC. If people don't know what FLETC is, it's the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. And I got into a fucking car accident one day going to training. It was snowing like a bastard, and this lady fucking lost control. I'm in a marked squad. She fucking smashes into me. And I'm already stressed out from being in the training, and my PTSD is like fucking in hyperdrive, and popping medications trying to manage it, but none of the shit they were throwing at me was working. They're giving me shit for like pregnant women, and it's like, man, I'm a fucking 240-pound man. I need fucking something that's going to take down an elephant, not a fucking dog, So I finished the training that day. I'm fucking straight, from training to the liquor store. Fuck it. I got my booze. Started drinking, on the way home, and Mark Scott, who's going to stop me, That's what I thought.
They'll stop you now if you've seen some of these videos.
Oh yeah, fucking A,
in Florida anyway.
I know. So I started drinking pretty early that day. Our last day was like practical, so we got out of training like lunchtime. So I started drinking early, and I drank all the way into the night, and I was drinking whiskey and beer and whatever the fuck I could get my hands on. And the old lady got into it, and I fucking lost my shit. I snapped. I busted up the house, scared the shit out of my kids. I didn't, hit anybody. I didn't beat my wife or beat my kids, but I scared the shit out of them. And, I snapped out of it for a second, and I realized, oh shit, I got to get the fuck out of here. I had this like flight or fight thing going, and I decided to flee. So I left the house. I tried to leave the house. My wife was scared and concerned, and she's trying to stop me, because I'm fucked up. And she gets in the car in the driver's seat, and she won't get out. So, I grabbed her by the wrist and the elbow, and I escorted her out like I would anybody else that wouldn't get out of a car. I'd throw her to the ground. I didn't grab her by the hair. I was just trying to leave. So I leave, drunk as shit, got a gun with me, and she is scared. She doesn't know what to do. And she remembered me telling her many times that I said, if I ever get, she used to give me shit about drinking and driving, because I was drive all the time. And she was like, I said, you know what? If I got arrested for drinking and driving, they'd have to give me treatment. Let's keep my job. I used to tell her that all the time. But all I got to tell them is I'm an alcoholic, which I fucking was, but I hadn't admitted that yet. And so she calls 911, and she talks to the dispatcher, tells them that, I'm sick and I need some help, and, they're grilling her, did he assault you? I listened to the tapes, after the fact, but so they send police to my house. I'm gone at this point. So I'm driving to another town because none of the fucking liquor stores in my town are open past 11. So I drove to another town to get some booze, and then I'm going to go to my buddy Trent's and sleep it off. So I'm driving down the fucking road. I get to the liquor store. I'm talking to Trent. I'm like, all right, man, I'll be there in a little bit. I'm just going to grab some booze and hang the phone up. And I'm sitting in the car and taking a minute. And he calls me right back. And he's like, he goes, hey, man, where are you? I said, I'm in Watervliet. You know, it's a town in Southwest Michigan. And he goes, Joe just called. Joe's one of my guys, one of the guys that worked for me. And he said they just put a BOL out for your vehicle for domestic violence. And fuck, you know. Now I'm on the run, you know. I'm like, I didn't know what to think, dude. I was like a fucking criminal, dude. I felt like a fucking fugitive. And so I still went in and bought my whiskey because that had to happen, you know. And I get in the car and I'm driving down the freeway waiting to get lit up, you know. I didn't know what I was going to do. I thought about killing myself, you know. I can't say I didn't because I had the gun in the car and it would have been an easy way to end it. But I did, you know. And I'm driving up close to where I live, and I'm pulling off the freeway, and another guy calls me, and he's a friend of mine. I worked in Benton Harbor with him, Gerald, and he was working that night for one of the cities where I pulled off. And he goes, hey man, you won't believe this shit. They just put out a BOL for a guy with your name and your car, man. That's some funny shit. I'm like, no, it's me, motherfucker. And he's like, oh, really? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, I said, I'm fucking sitting at the fruit stand off the freeway. And he goes, I'll be right there. So he comes, gets me, and I break down crying and shit. I'm fucking messed up. I hated putting him in that situation, but I felt comfortable with him, you know, because I knew him and I trusted him, and I needed somebody at that point like that. And I haven't told this guy that, but I think he saved my life that night calling me, because I think if I had sat there long enough, I probably would have shot myself, because I wasn't, you know, in a good frame of mind, and I was numbing it, you know, with alcohol, and I was just getting more drunk. And so he picks me up. I turn around, put my hands behind my back. He's like, no, motherfucker, get in the front seat, you know? So I get in the front seat and I'm crying and shit. And I called my chief, you know, he answered. He already knew about it because the state police had notified him. And I'm breaking down to him, you know? And so he's like, just be quiet, just cooperate, blah, blah, blah. He gave me good advice, even though he already set the stage for me to fucking gone, you know. So we go up to the Shell station and fucking troopers show up 5 deep, you know. I'm like, damn.
Did I rob a bank and don't remember?
Yeah, man, what the fuck did I do, you know? And
well, you know, as well as I know, all they're hearing is active duty cop, drunk,
yep.
Domestic violence. Most cops, 99.9%, ought to be armed.
Yep.
We're not like the normal bad guy because we're trained. So,
right. So, yeah, we're trained to shoot. Yep.
So they, you know, that's probably why he came so deep.
Yeah. So these fucking troopers show up and they're all like fresh out of recruit school, man, you know. Well, and I'm like, fuck, I'm screwed. You know, I don't see one gray hair in the crowd. And so the troops talking to me and I'm telling them the truth, man. I fucking tell them, he never reads me my rights. He never reads me my rights. That's an important part because that comes up later. So I'm telling him what happened. And he goes, well, did you assault your wife? And I said, no. He goes, well, what happened? I said, well, she got in the car and I was trying to leave. She was trying to stop me. And I was glad that Gerald called because I was in a car with a gun, drunk. If they had caught me that way, it would have been way worse, you know? So he tried, you know, he's talking to me. I tell him, you know, she got out of the car. She wouldn't get out. I grabbed her by the arm. You know, I didn't forcibly grab her hard or yank her or anything. I just pulled her out, you know? She was pulling back. I was pulling out. She came out. You know, I'm stronger than she is. And he was like, well, did she give you permission to touch her? Motherfucker, are you going to really ask me that kind of question? And he's like, well, you know, that's considered assault in the state of Michigan. I said, yeah, well, you know, I get it, but there's circumstances, man. You know, that wasn't the reason that's not the reason that I did it. The reason I did it was because I was trying to leave the situation. I'm trying to do what the fuck we tell people to do every time, you know? And so they're like, oh, you're under arrest, motherfucker. Turn around, put your hands behind your back.
Technicalities.
Yeah. So I'm looking at him and, you know, I'm looking at the guy behind me and he's getting a good position to fucking shoot me right in the back, you know? And Gerald's like shaking his head because he's looking at me and he could see it on my face, you know, that I was fucking, because I always used to say, I'm not going to jail over some bullshit. If I go to jail, it's going to be for R&O. Resisting and obstructing. But I didn't do that. You know, I had more, I used to make that joke, but I had more respect for these guys, even though they were fucking, you know, kind of, they blue falcon the fuck out of me, man. But, you know, I went along with the program. I gave up, you know, so they handcuffed me and I told the guy, you know, that I was sick and that I think I had PTSD and I want to go to the hospital. Well, he took me to the county and they lodged me for domestic. I've got a sweatshirt on that says, you know, such and such county tactical response unit with a fucking, you know, big police emblem on the chest. You know, I'm going into the county jail as an inmate, you know? So they fucking print me, run me all through all the shit, put me in my own cell. You know, I know the sheriff personally. He took care of me. He ran a lot of interference for me on this when the media was trying to get a hold of it because they wanted it bad. They wanted my mugshot. They wanted fucking all the details. They wanted to put it on the news, and he like stonewalled them. So I'll be forever grateful to him for that. But, you know, I'm sitting in the fucking tank and I was in there for 22 hours, sobered up in there, got more pissed off in there. So finally fucking one of the jail guards comes and they were supposed to do my arraignment in the morning and it never happened. And, you know, now I know it's because they were trying to keep me in jail. And they violated my fucking civil rights because they posted my bond at $2,500 cash. Never been arrested before. Don't have a criminal history. And my bond's $2,500 cash for a 93-day misdemeanor, which most guys get maximum 500 or a PR bond, you know? Yeah. So the lady's like, it's $2,500. Like, okay, bitch, go get my fucking credit card and heat that fucker up. I want out of here, you know? So they do. It takes another 45 minutes. They give me my property. I go into my property, and my police ID and my badge are gone. I'm like, where the fuck's my police shit? Oh, your department came and got that. They came to the jail and took my fucking badge and ID out of my property. So that was like, ouch, man. You know, that was like, I was already down, man, you know, on the ground, and then they kicked me in the fucking teeth, you know. So I get out of jail. I call Trent. He comes and gets me. I buy a fucking fifth of whiskey. I drank that fucker pretty fast. And I couldn't go home, you know, because I had...
with the domestic, you got no contact order on your bond.
Yeah. Got no contact order, you know, protection order. I couldn't even talk to my wife or talk to my kids, you know. They isolated me when I needed them the most. And, you know, so I bounced around on some couches for a couple days. I stayed in a hotel for a couple nights. I went to one of the guys that worked for me. Him and his wife took me in, and I was sleeping in their basement. And he told me, he said, you can stay. His wife was pregnant at the time. You know, I felt like a fucking asshole imposing on that, but I just didn't have nowhere else to go. And he's like, but no drinking, you know. And I said, no problem. that was hard, you know, because I drank every day.
Yeah, you're a full-blown alcoholic at this point.
Yeah. So, you know, I started going through DTs at their house, and they went to work one morning. I decided, fuck it. I went online and I found a first responder treatment program. I called, and this lady answers, and she was great, man. Her dad was a Detroit cop, retired, and she had nothing but, you know, empathy for me. And they were hard. They got me on a flight that fucking day. I was on a flight to Fort Lauderdale, and I went down there to this place called Recovery First, but they had a first responder program. And so, you know, my father-in-law, he drops me off at the airport in South Bend, Indiana, and waved goodbye, you know. Didn't get to see I take that back. I did stop at the house and see my family before I left, because I didn't give a fuck if they arrested me for it or not. I was going to see them before I did this, because I wanted them to know that I was doing this for us, you know. And so I went on my way, and, you know, I drank the whole way there. By the time I got to rehab, I was over a 2. And they fucking, you know, processed me, put me in a room. I passed out, and then, you know, I'm sitting. They had 2 facilities. They had the intake facility, and then they had the residential facility where you would go for your treatment and shit. So I'm in the receiving facility, and so I'm out there, all these fucking meth heads and, you know, heroin addicts and shit puking on themselves. And I go out there's like a kitchen area where TV and people could kind of sit, and I'm out there getting a cup of coffee, and this fucking meth head, man, he's like on me. He fucking gets him. He's like, "Who the fuck are you?" Blah, 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 in my face. You look like a cop. And there was another guy that was in there from another county in Michigan. So I'm like, damn, there must be a problem with Michigan cops and alcoholism. So, so finally this guy wouldn't leave me alone. I'm like, listen, motherfucker. I fucking flashed on him. I said, if you don't fucking leave me alone, I'm going to throw you off this fucking balcony out here. Because we were up on the 2nd floor of this building, and there's a balcony out to the parking lot. So when I got to the inpatient thing, they had me flagged as like combative and aggressive. So, which is what, you know, I was, man. You know, I was aggressive. And, you know, the first 2 days there, I DT'd so bad. They had me on benzodiazepine. My heart rate was fucking all over the place. My blood pressure was through the roof. It was bad, man. You know, I was sick, and I wouldn't wish that on my worst fucking enemy. The just going through that withdrawal, and alcohol withdrawals are worse than anything else, man. It's the most dangerous withdrawal that you can go through. Worse than heroin, worse than anything else, because it can cause seizures, and it can cause, you know, if you have a seizure, it can kill you. So, but I made it through that, and, you know, I had a solid guy, Danny was his name. His brother was a Navy SEAL, and Danny was, you know, in therapy. He was a therapist, but he was the best therapist I could have got, man, you know, because he didn't let me, you know, slide on shit. And so I did my time. I did 30 days in rehab. We had this fucking guy. We had our first responder group. He was a cop. There's a black dude from Trinidad. And so he introduces himself, and he's telling us about his story, and he's in recovery too. Well, he was a corrupt ass cop in Trinidad. He was like fucking running dope and stealing money and, you know, all this shit, you know? So it was funny, man. His story was amazing, but, you know, I believed it 100% because, you know, why would you admit to that shit? So, you know, I got out. I completed my program successfully. I flew back to Michigan. I still had a no contact order. So I stayed at my in-laws until I was able to go to my arraignment. and have that lifted. So I'm back from rehab. That fucking day, my chief's calling me. You need to come down for an interview. You need to come down for an interview. You know, fuck you, man. I'm not coming down for a fucking interview right now. I got other shit going on. And he was just pushing this thing. He wanted to fast track it. And, you know, I heard from people after the fact that he'd been, you know, I want to fire him today. I want to fire him today. And, you know, they're like, no, the HR and those guys are like, no, you know, he's not, we're not going to fire him yet. And so I was on admin leave, paid for 2 months. And, you know, I went to my arraignment. I had a judge who was an ex-trooper. So I'm fucked because the case is a state police case. And the prosecutor, the assistant prosecutor, was trying to tack on OWI and all this other shit. And I said, or the judge asked me about that. And I said, well, you know, he could charge me with OWI, but you got no chemical test. You got no SFSTs. You got no case, you know. We got a PBT at the jail. Yeah, my PBT at the jail was a .08, motherfucker, you know. You going to charge me with that? So.
Well, we're going to stick nobody saw you driving.
Oh, man, if they had got me driving, I'd have had OWI, possession of a firearm while intoxicated, and domestic violence. I would have had 3 cases. So they would have had me by the balls, and then I would have had to fucking plea, you know. And that was the goal the whole time. They wanted me to plea. This went on for a fucking year. I hired an attorney. You know, he didn't want to, you know, I had this attorney. I fucking threw $20,000 at this guy. You know, it cost me $20,000 to defend myself on a fucking domestic violence charge. And they just wouldn't drop it. And finally we were getting close to trial. And my attorney's like trying to pressure me too, you know, because he's just another lawyer. You know, they're all fucking lawyers. They're all in it together. And he wants to do what's good. He wants to make the judge happy, so the judge likes him, and he has an easy time in court with his cases. So it's all bullshit, you know. So I told my fucking attorney, I said, first of all, let me tell you something. You work for me. And second of all, I will never take a fucking plea. You can tell that to the prosecutor. If he wants to fucking convict me, he's going to have to get 12 people to say that I'm guilty. So this continues to go on. Prosecutor, they sent a subpoena for court. Christmas Eve, they sent this trooper out to my house on Christmas Eve to subpoena my fucking oldest son and my wife. You know, on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, and they can't make her testify against you being married.
Right. Exactly. So the trooper was, you know, there was one trooper in this whole scenario that was against everything. You know, he's like, you're really going to do this to this guy? You know, he's got fucking PTSD. We don't do this to vets. They got PTSD. Why are we going to do it to one of our own people? You know? And so he was the one that showed up for the subpoena, and they promoted the guy that arrested me. He got his little fucking, you know, he got his little feather in his cap for locking a cop up. But he's like, yeah, I don't want to be here, but they're making me do it. You know how that is. I was like, yeah, I had no bad feelings against the guy. I said, Merry Christmas, you know? So we're going on. And finally, you know, my wife wanted to go in and talk to the prosecutor. She talked to the victim's advocate. She wrote a letter, you know. They had all my records from rehab. You know, I took it upon myself to get treatment and stop drinking. That was the last time I drank was March 15th of 2019. I've been sober ever since. And none of that was good enough, you know. And that would have been good enough for anybody. So that proved to me that this wasn't about, you know, the prosecutors in there. Well, you know, victims come in and they lie for the offender. Our job is to protect the victim, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, you guys don't ever do that shit, okay? You forgot who you're talking to. I know you, motherfucker. I've seen the cases that you fucking shit can, you know? I mean, I had a domestic one time, the same prosecutor, this lady calls 911. She got a fucking disabled husband, and she tells the 911 operator on a recorded line that she threw her husband down the stairs and kicked him in the back several times. You need to send an ambulance. He's hurt. That's a slam dunk, man. Excited utterance. She said it on a recorded line. That's an easy fucking domestic, you know?
Yep.
I submitted it. They fucking kicked it. Oh, it's he said, she said, you know? Oh, it's he said, she said, huh? Even though you had the fucking 911 tape, you know? So don't tell me that you never dismiss domestics, motherfucker, because I've seen you not charge domestics that are good domestics. So, so then they wouldn't let my attorney didn't want my wife talking to the prosecutor. He thought she was, you know, against me for whatever reason. I kept telling him that it wasn't that way. And, you know, she still carries a lot of guilt from that night for calling. You know, she told me, she's like, I called them because I thought, you know, those are the only people that are going to help you are your people. And so I called them. And she would have been right if the county had showed up. If the county had showed up, it would have went differently. But it was the state. So, so I hired another attorney to pay him $2,500 to go in with my wife, Kristen, to speak with the prosecutor, because she doesn't trust the prosecutor now. She doesn't trust the state police, because she had told them all the things about what had happened, told them there was no assault, told them that I was sick. This was all, you know, when we FOIA'd the body cam footage, they couldn't find any of it. They couldn't find the footage from my house. You're telling me that 4 or 5 troopers were at another cop's house on a domestic, and they didn't have their fucking body cams on? Bullshit, you know? And they couldn't find the footage from when I told the trooper and asked for help, you know, because that all that shit would have made them look bad. And so I hired this fucking hard-hitting attorney from Kalamazoo. He goes in with my wife, and the prosecutor's like, well, what are you doing here, Don? You know, the attorney. He goes, I'm here representing my client. Well, I'm her attorney. He goes, well, apparently she doesn't trust you, so I'm here. Well, Don got involved, and within 5 days, the case was dismissed because they didn't want to go in front of a jury and not only have me, you know, tell them that I asked for help, but have my wife tell them that she called because she wanted me to get help, not because she had been assaulted. And so the case got dismissed. But in the meantime, you know, during that time, July of 19, I was called by, you know, first I had to go down and do all this bullshit interviews. You know, I was working for a tribal police department. So we were under federal purview. We were federal officers through the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And then we were state certified, you know, in Michigan. So they sent this DIA agent from fucking Oklahoma. And, you know, I already know how this is going to go. I went down with my attorney and met with this guy. He did his interview at the police department. And as soon as he starts talking to me, I know this is just him, you know, crossing his T's and dotting his I's for the chief so they can fire me. So he's going in, he basically saying, you know, did you sign this? He shows me my oath of office. And I'm like, yep. So in there it says that you will maintain your life and keep it from being unsullied, all this bullshit. I'm like, yeah, it says that. So do you think you've done that? And I said, I didn't answer. I just looked at him. And I said, I didn't commit any domestic violence. He goes, but you admitted that you pulled your wife out of the car. I said, yeah, I did admit that because it wasn't an assault, you know, and you still have to have mens rea actus rea, motherfucker, a guilty mind and a guilty intent, you know, guilty intent and the guilty act. Well, in Michigan, you don't have to have that, blah, 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 domestic this and that. And I said, you're going to tell me about Michigan law? I said, let me tell you something, the difference between an assault and battery and an incidental contact. Okay. So if I was walking down the hall and you don't like me and I don't like you, and I accidentally bumped into you and you didn't like that, but you couldn't really charge me with assault and battery because it was an accident, right? It was incidental. But if I reached across this countertop and smacked you across the fucking face, now you'd have a case. And he's like, are you threatening me? I said, I'm just making a statement, man. So that went to shit. You know, I told the department when I got diagnosed, I was diagnosed with chronic PTSD, so cumulative. unspecified. So it's not like, oh, I had a car accident, now I got PTSD. I got 20 years of fucking PTSD, you know. And my whole career wasn't PTSD, but there was enough of it that was. And so it didn't matter. July rolls around of 19. They call me in and they fire me. They try to get me to resign. And the HR lady sent me an email, you know, saying, hey, you know, she was a good lady. She was trying to help me, and she wasn't down with what was going on. And she ultimately got fired later after I was for something else. But I don't know if it was connected to her helping me out or not. But she was trying to get me, you know, hey, maybe you should resign, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, I'm not fucking resigning. If he wants me gone, he's going to have to fire me. So he did. Called me in on a Tuesday. You know, I just had a hip surgery because I was scheduled for hip surgery before all this shit happened. So I had my hip surgery while I was off. I had him leave. And, you know, he told me, you're fired. And I said, can I ask why I'm fired? Because at the time they fired me, my case was still pending. And he said, well, you're on family medical leave and you've exhausted your FML and you weren't able to return to work. I'm like, really? Because I never got a return to work date. And he looks at me. I said, because that's how that fucking works. If you want me to come back to work, you have to say you're ordered to come back to work on this date. And then if I fail to show up or I'm failed to be cleared by my doctor to show up, then you can fire me. So you did it backwards, asshole. You know? Didn't matter. I was gone. You know, I tried to pursue it. You know, I was very litigious after that. I wanted fucking people to pay. I was angry. It set me back a lot, man, you know, because I stayed sober through all this shit, which is amazing. Because I was going to regular meetings. I got a sponsor. I did everything they told me to do at rehab, you know, because I didn't want to just get sober for myself. I wanted to do it, you know, for my family. And I stayed that way ever since. But, you know, I went through a lot of shit and they set me back, you know, pretty far on my recovery from the mental health stuff, you know.
I can imagine that.
Yeah. You know, and the judge was against me, man. You know, we were going through our evidentiary hearings and shit. And, you know, the Miranda issue comes up because they did have the audio of me telling them the story about what happened. And that's what they want. That's all they wanted, you know, the jury to hear. So my attorney's like, well, he gets the trooper up on the stand. Or first they had Gerald on the stand, my buddy. And they're like, so tell us about what happened, blah, blah, blah. He tells the story. And he's like, so you met up with Jim and then you detained him for the state police. He's like, no, I took him into custody. Because they were trying to separate me being taken into custody and being questioned by the state police. They were trying to use this roadside interview bullshit. And so my buddy's like, you know, he's not telling a lie. He's telling the truth. He's like, no, they put out a BOL for arrest, PC for arrest. I called him, talked to him. I went and got him. He turned himself into me. He was under arrest. So my attorney crosses there. So he's like, if you had to try to run away, what would you have done? He goes, I would have had to stop him, you know? He asked the troopers the same thing because they were like, oh, he wasn't in custody. He wasn't in custody. Because we had made the argument that the Miranda statement, you know, the Miranda rules were never read. And anything that I said before that wasn't admissible. So the troopers out there fucking trying to, you know, toe the company line and fucking my attorney hits him. He's like, so what if he had resisted or decided he didn't want to talk to you and just started walking away? Well, I would have stopped him. What if he had fought? Then I would have had to tase him and all this other shit. So he wasn't free to leave, you know? So that road, the fucking judge, he's like, oh, well, you were a cop for, you know, 20 years at the time. You know your Miranda rights. I'm allowing it. Well, I filed an appeal to the fucking head judge there, the chief justice. And she reversed his decision and called him erroneous in his decision because there is no cop exception to Miranda, you know? I watched a lot of Law and Order exception to Miranda. There's no lawyer exception to Miranda. Miranda is to be read. So that's a whole rush shit. You know, they fired me, put me in the soup line, you know, me and my family. And, it's taken me about 4 years now to fully recover. I didn't go back to work doing anything until a few months ago. And, that's just some bullshit job that I'm doing for a buddy of mine just so I can make some extra money because, it's just, we're not making the kind of money I was making when I was working as a cop.
Yeah.
And, and you really learn who your friends are through all this shit. I have maybe 5 or 6 guys that stayed in contact with me the whole time and still do to this day. And those guys are my brothers, I don't fault the other guys for not, keeping up with me. Everybody's got their own shit going on, but I did for a long time. I felt slighted, I felt betrayed. And so now, I got my security license, last year, and I'm working with an old partner of mine. We just got a security contract working, night security. So, I'm trying to get that going. And, I miss being a cop, man, but being a cop like I was isn't there anymore. It doesn't exist. So, I'm good with, being done. I'm not bitter anymore. I was bitter for a long time. I was planning people's fucking assassinations. I was, running all these fucked up scenarios in my head, and I had to let that shit go, man. Holding that grudge was like drinking poison and expecting all those assholes to die from it. And the only person I was hurting was me and my family, So I'm better as a result. I believe that what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. And I still think I'm a better cop than most of the guys that I worked for in my career. But that chapter of my life's done. So that's it, man. That's kind of my story.
Well, we're all glad that you didn't kill yourself. So,
yeah, me too.
And I'm sure your wife and kids are happy about it.
Oh yeah, they're definitely happy, man. It's, life is so much, better. Even though we're poor now. We're poor. We live paycheck to paycheck. I make enough money.
Let me say this. When y'all first got together, y'all were a younger couple, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're probably living. I know when I first got in this job, I used to live paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
So it's really no different than like when you first started this job.
Right.
And money makes things easier, but it's not going to make you happy.
No, it doesn't make you happy. And, that we're learning that lesson. And, I think God's teaching me some things that I need to learn. And, I'm better as a result of it. I think God was there. I think this happened to prevent something worse from happening later, like me being drunk behind the wheel and getting into a fatal car accident and killing somebody, or killing one of my kids in a fatal car accident, or, getting killed at work, whatever was coming my way, God stepped in the way and said, all right, motherfucker, you're not going to like this. It's going to sting a little bit, but you're going to come out on the other side as a better person as a result.
Yeah. Worked out. So like I said, and you went and got help for the alcoholism, which a lot of cops, hey, I got friends that, were alcoholics and ended up having to, go to AA. I don't know if someone went to rehab or not, but hey, got a buddy of mine. He's been sober for over 20 years now. And I got more respect for him because it's a whole lot harder to do that than it's not.
It is, man. And, I still go out with guys. I went out to lunch with a friend of mine, high school buddy I hadn't seen in a long time. And we sat down to eat, and guy comes for drinks, and he's looking at me because I ordered a Coke, and I was like, dude, order a beer, man. I don't give a fuck. It doesn't bother me. I've got 4 years between me and my last drink. I know what alcohol turned me into, and I don't ever want to be that guy again, and so if that means I don't drink, that's fine. But that doesn't mean he can't drink. He's not a fucking alcoholic. Maybe he is an alcoholic, but that's not for me to decide. That's his decision,
Well, I was around like my wife one time. She's like, they're a recovering alcoholic, you shouldn't drink around him. I'm like, first of all, he's been in recovery for a while. And second of all, they're in a place that serves alcohol. So
right. Yep. So yeah, it was a wild ride, man. And the worst parts of my PTSD when I was the worst off that I was hallucinating shit. I was seeing shit that wasn't there. I was hearing things that weren't there. I would zone out and stare at a blank television for hours. My family, what are you doing watching the show? I'm not watching shit. I'm crazy, I remember one of the last fucking shitty calls I went on. We got sent to a kid that drowned in a pool at a fucking 4th of July party where a bunch of adults were out there drinking. Everybody's in the pool and nobody noticed this kid in distress and he's at the bottom, So
you kind of wonder how that even happens.
Yeah, what the fuck, man? So I'm pissed off already, and he died. The kid was we tried to fucking bring him back, and he didn't make it. And they loaded him up on the fucking ambulance on the stretcher. And when I was walking back to my squad car, I could have swore I looked back in to just kind of see what was going on in the ambulance, and he was sitting up looking at me. And I shook my head, and then it fucking went away. But, it was scary, man. Like, all I can say is people don't, I used to think PTSD is for pussies. That's for people who can't take it, fucking suck it up, rub some dirt on it. That's the kind of shit that I was told, my whole life, not even as a cop, just as a fucking man,
Yep.
And,
well, my generation was raised up like that. Nowadays, it's not like that.
Right. But, my therapist told me this. He said, I told him I felt like I was weak. And he goes, you didn't get sick because you're weak. You got sick because you cared too much. And I believe that, I believe that I cared too much. I cared about my people. I cared about the job I did. I cared about the people that I was serving. And when I saw bad things happen to those people, it affected me,
Yeah. Well, I had yesterday, I was in the store buying some stuff to cook for supper for the next few days. So, young girl, I stopped on my way home from work, so I was in uniform. Little young girl, she asked me, she asked me, well, what's basically what was, what cop story sticks out the most to you and stuff like that. And I'm like, I've been doing this almost 30 years. I just can't, spout that out. I mean,
right.
And she asked me another one, an exciting one. And I looked at her, I said, look, if you want to hear a lot of my stories, you just go listen to my podcast. And it was weird because her dad, she's like, you have a podcast? I'm like, yeah. She's like, my dad has a podcast. And it was actually the daughter of one of these, of the guy on a podcast right here. It's actually a big podcast. I mean, they do live shows and shit. Like sell tickets.
Really?
Like on stage, yeah. So.
Damn.
I said, okay. So, but yeah, it's like I'm just going to listen because I noticed, everybody knows I don't talk about it much. But I have stories, people, that one day I will tell y'all about in detail. That's not great. The shit that I saw and have been through, and it's like you carry the longer you do this job, the more shit you will carry around as baggage.
Yep.
It's just, I'll be honest. I mean, there's certain things, I can be watching a TV show, more like a first responder show or something like that, and either they'll say something or something will happen on there, and, I don't like that word, but I can't say it's not triggering to me, but it's like,
oh yeah,
it brings back stuff it's like that I hadn't thought about maybe in a very long time because I buried it down. And it can just it can be something just totally stupid that'll trigger something off in my memory that's like, something that I don't want to remember. So I'm sure I have a slight touch of post-traumatic stress. I never got that.
I don't think you can go through this job and not, but it affects, it kind of, it could come out it comes out in different ways, man. It manifests itself in different ways on a case by case basis. I had a buddy kill himself last year. I used to work with him on the east side, and he went to work one day, kissed his wife, he was working for the sheriff's department over there, and went to a park and fucking blew his brains out in the car with a service weapon.
I know I've had friends, some of them weren't in law enforcement, killed themselves, and I was like,
yeah,
like I had one of my best friends. It was a girl, and she killed herself.
Jeez, that's terrible.
And shot herself in the head. She wasn't a cop.
Yeah.
You know how many, like they don't live there anymore, but when I go to town, I have to drive past the house that my best friend blew her brains out in. Mm-hmm. So every time I see that house, I think about it.
Yeah.
And, took a long time. At first, I was upset. Then I was extremely, extremely mad at her. Mm-hmm. And then the questions start, because I don't think she didn't leave no note. And just, then you start questioning yourself. What did I miss? What did I miss? What did I didn't see? What should I have done? Why? Yeah,
exactly. You get that survivor's guilt.
Why didn't she come talk to me? I mean, just people don't realize, anybody out there, hopefully nobody listen to me, if you're ever thinking about committing suicide, there's helplines, or call a relative, call a friend, call somebody and talk to them, because if you kill yourself, you think your problems may be over or whatever, your pain. But you know what? Think about the people you're leaving behind: a spouse, a girlfriend, your mom, your dad, your kids, nephew. Mm-hmm. All these people you leave behind. And trust me, I know you're thinking, well, they're better off without me, blah, blah. That's not true. I guarantee you go talk to anybody in your own family, even if you don't get along with them. They're not going they don't want you. They might say it or something sometimes, but in God's honest truth, they would rather you be around. So,
yeah.
Like I said, I had talked to them people with cop line before. I always put it in the description. So if you're in law enforcement, you feel like you need to talk, you can call them. They got copline.org. They say all the phone lines are answered by retired police officers. So if you're in law enforcement or first responder, I'm pretty sure people that's been through, that's been behind the badge, had it on their chest and stuff like that, so they might understand you more than a civilian may. So, and of course that phone number will be in the description on here too if anybody has it. So.
Another place good too is Iceman is Blue Help. They have it's an East Coast organization, but Blue Help is another one that I've seen that does the same thing as Copline.
Well, anybody, like I said, even civilians, call somebody.
Yeah.
I tell my friends and stuff, hey, you feel like it? I don't care. Call me or text me. I don't care what time it is at night. I will come, and wherever you fucking are, I will come there. And people that are in law enforcement, and y'all know it's true, and I've seen it. If you see one of your friends or your coworkers struggling or acting different than their normal, you know what I'm talking about. Not just because they're right, but just anything. You're noticing a change in something that's not on the best side. You ain't got to go report them at first. Why don't you go talk to them?
Yeah.
Feel them out a little bit. Because the stigma is in law enforcement. Like I said, once you get that rubber stamp or you get something like that, you get shunned by all the other cops.
Yep.
So instead of the people that should be looking out for each other, they a lot of times they don't when it comes to a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And I think people, I think it's human nature, man. They see something in somebody that they may be afraid that might happen to them, and they want to distance themselves from it,
It's like leaving a wounded, like you're in a pack and you get wounded, so they just leave you behind because you're making the pack weaker now.
Or they wound you to leave you behind.
Oh yeah, or they wound you because they want your position or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
But don't show them. And if you're check on your retirees, if you were friends with somebody that retired from the job,
yeah,
go. Why don't you call and check on him? I got a buddy of mine. He's retired, and about four or five of us still talk to him, and he'll tell you. Because I mean, everybody screams about the brotherhood. Once you retire, once you're not in this job no more, it's like you never were there.
Right. It's like fucking within a year, man. I mean, now, like, I'll go out there and see guys driving around in squad cars. I don't even know what the fuck they are. I used to know everybody. I used to know every fucking guy in the squad car. Knew who they were, knew their first name. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be like that. I mean, you used to know everybody. Hell, I've been. Yeah. I mean, I don't know a lot of people that work in my old department at all anymore. And you know what? You know, as many people, you know, I've said it before. There's a job. If you put, don't care what kind of first responder are you, it's a job. And
it's a job.
It's not your life. Because
that bullshit they tell people where being a cop is something that you are, not something that you do. That's true. But it also it can't be true, you know, because you can't be a cop all the time, man. No, you gotta have your fucking private life, you know.
But you have to. Don't neglect your family,
right,
for this job. Which I was guilty of it.
I was too, man.
I was guilty of it because you know what? I'm gonna tell you right now. To everybody listening, everybody can think what they want to think, hate me, disagree with me. Write me email if you do. Once you're gone, like I said, from the job, you're not there. You know, I've seen guys thinking they're, you know, and I know they might say it, but you're thinking, yeah, they'll remember my name forever around here. Well, guess what? The next batch of recruits that come out and start new, the FTOs and the new boots, and you're not there, they don't know who you are.
Yeah. We had 200 guys in Pontiac. The only name I remember from the past was Gerald Carpenter, and that's because he was killed in the line of duty in 1977.
Yeah, I mean, I remember some of the old guys and stuff like that. But you know, these new guys. I mean, I was one of the founding members of the SRT team in the department. I one of the founding members of the motor division in the department. Yeah, I'm the one that, you know, went and did all the stuff. I'm the reason they got Freeze Plus P back in the day and stuff like that. You think any of these little young guys know that or no? They don't know. No. Nobody cares.
They don't know.
I didn't build no. You know, you think you're building some legacy that's going to live a lifetime. Your legacy and name is going to be with your family and your kids and your grandkids, not with a police department.
No,
or a sheriff's office. Once you're gone, you're just a memory. You're a very slight memory if you're lucky.
Right. So,
not trying to be all dismal, people. I'm just saying it how it is. I hate seeing these young cops. My wife got aggravated with me today. Me and Sarge here were supposed to record earlier, and I said, you tell I'm old and I'm still from the country, because I said, look, when I say I'm going to town,
I'm going to town.
Yeah, we're going to town. But I had to, of course, you know, I need a new belt for my lawnmower, which I had to order because I couldn't find it anywhere. But we stopped and eat. We stopped and ate, and this Mexican place we really like, and we're sitting there. She's telling me something that happened at work. Well, these people came in. It was three guys and a girl. They were at the front door, and she's like, "You're not on duty. Stop." She's like, "What are you looking at?" The way they were acting and the way they were in and out the door stuff is if something wasn't sitting right with me. So I'm watching them, you know, because I didn't like how they were acting. So I'm watching them. They were probably just people just stupid or on dope. But I mean, I'm watching to make sure they ain't getting ready to rob the place with me sitting here or whatever, you know. And she's like, said something. I said, no. She said, well, what would you do? I said, well, if they pulled out guns and started shooting, I said, I'd jump on top of you so I get shot and not you. You didn't have to do that. I said, I know I don't have to. I said, I would. I mean, I am. That's what I'm going to do. But
damn right.
She got aggravated because she's like, I can't help it. Because if they would have been acting normal, they wouldn't have they'd have caught my attention for a second.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I'd have been back, but they were acting weird to me.
So. Oh, these new guys, man, they don't pick up on that shit. They ignore it. And that's our job, is to be paranoid about shit and notice things that are different. You know, I remember we were on a stop and this guy had these backpacks and shit. So he's got the bag set on the side of the road. And this young guy I'm working with, he says, you got some ID? So the guy's like, yeah. He goes to go in the backpack. So I'm like, no, don't go in that bag. Well, he goes more aggressively to open it. So I pulled my weapon and I fucking aimed in on his head. And I said, get the fuck away from that bag. And after the fact, I told my fucking rookie, I said, that's how you fucking die in this job, is that kind of shit right there.
Well, yeah, but they're so, like I said, I pulled my gun not too long ago on a guy.
Mm-hmm.
While I was on my motorcycle. Still moving, you know? I mean, and it's like, I mean, I've been in training to be able to do that, but it's like, I found a lot of these rookie guys, they're way scared to pull that. They're scared to clear leather on that firearm.
I know.
No, they'll pull that taser out on you in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what, I don't even carry my taser, because if I feel like I need to point something at you at that point,
right, I'm
not, you know, because I'm preaching again, but I've seen too many rookie cops rely on that taser way too much. Yeah,
that fucking taser it's a tool. It's not 100% even, you know. So
somebody pulls out a knife. I'm not pulling out a taser. I'm pulling my gun out. You pull out a baseball bat. You pull out anything that you can hurt me with, it doesn't turn into a deadly use of force for me. I'm not pussyfooting around with you. And if I look at you and say, you need to get out the car or I'm going to spray you, you're like, man, fuck you. And you keep going and doing this, doing that. You need to get out of the car or I'm going to spray you.
Mm-hmm.
That's number 2.
Yep.
Now, a little bit later, and I tell you that third time, I'm going to tell you, if you don't get out of the car right now, I'm going to spray you.
Yep.
And right after that, if they don't move, they're just getting sprayed.
Yeah, that's it.
I watched these videos the other day. I swear to God, this cop must have told this person to giving them commands or they were going to tase them at least 32 times. Okay? That was 30 times too many.
Yeah, damn right.
30 times too many. I mean, after about 10, the person's like, yeah, they just run their mouth. I mean, actions speak louder than words.
Damn right.
So, all right, I'm starting to preach on it. Look, I totally don't hang up either. I'm going to do the outro.
Okay.
I totally appreciate it. It was awesome. I don't want to say I enjoyed it. You had my attention the whole time listening to your story, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it, because, you know, talking about, you know, what happened and what you went through, and like I said, the mistakes you made and stuff with alcohol and stuff like that takes a lot.
Yeah.
You know, so
yep.
I appreciate it immensely, and I hope the listeners appreciate it, because how many of y'all would admit to all the stuff he admitted to, but get your life straight and move on. So I appreciate it. And everybody,
thanks, man. Appreciate it, man.
Everybody, I'm putting this out tomorrow. So I'm probably gonna put out some more, but if not, y'all have a happy 4th of July and be safe. Remember, let the drunk people pop the fireworks. It's more entertaining. And remember, we're not sheepdogs. We're lions, and we're going to protect our pride. And y'all be safe. Watch your back.
Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Yo, I got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things